Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill. We're glad you're here today, and we have in the studio, again, as our co-host, T.S. and Smack. Hi.
Hey.
You doing okay?
I am. How about you?
Good. Glad you're here.
Me too.
Tell us about the show.
All right. So today's show is sponsored by the College at Southeastern, where students are equipped to give their lives for the cause of Christ in the church, among the nations, and in every aspect of society. For Homeschool Conversations today, we get to talk with Glenn Ransom. He is the creator of Bible and Stories and is one of our workshop speakers at the Thrive Conference. Homeschool news, we're going to talk about more features of Thrive Conference, and we're also going to hear some homeschool news from Georgia and Oklahoma. And then we're going to see a homeschool reality moment where Megan Grammer sent a video telling us why she loves NCHE. So we have a good show today.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. We're happy to have Glenn Ransom to talk to today. He has been challenging folks to get back to biblical family devotion since 1984. After making over 8,000 in-home sales presentations to families of the amazing resource Bible and Stories, God gave him many ideas on how to solve the many challenges we face regarding having effective devotions. He and Kathy are blessed with 6 homeschool children and 2 grandchildren. They reside on the family farm in Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Honored to be here, Matthew. Thank you.
And I'll just go ahead and have the full disclosure that Glenn is a good friend of mine. Okay. We spent many years fellowshipping in church together and really close to his family. Really appreciate them, and they've ministered to our family in a lot of ways. Awesome. So it's an extra special blessing for you to be here. One of the things that we want to point out, of course, is that you'll be at the Thrive Conference, and you were there last year as well, right?
I think I've been there twice so far.
Okay. And so let's just start off with the workshop title you have here and have a little preview. It's called Kiss Family Devotion Excuses Goodbye, right? So give us a little preview on that one.
Well, having the opportunity to be in over 8,000 homes with every situation you could imagine, we heard every excuse that I believe is out there regarding why somebody's not reading the Bible on a daily basis, and the challenges that they face. Generally, it's time comes up as the first issue. Glenn, I'm working 2 jobs, trying to put food on the table, and I just don't have time. But our goal was to take all of the challenges that families faced, all of the excuses that I've even ashamedly given as a dad before in my life,
sure,
and solve each one, and help families, especially dads, have a lot of confidence that they could very effectively lead family devotions from the Bible.
So how about throwing out two or three top excuses? What do you hear the most?
Probably the biggest one is we don't have time. And in my life, the things that are a priority, I schedule, because if I don't schedule to exercise, I don't exercise. If I don't block off time to eat, personally, I won't eat. But and a lot of it came through things that we were doing there at the church, and through your influence, Matthew. You challenged us in the men's group frequently as to what is your personal war room, what is your personal quiet time like with the Lord, what's your Bible reading like? Because honestly, I'm in a lot of churches, and the majority of people in the pew, if we're honest, are not reading the Bible. And they're definitely not teaching it to their children. They're definitely not having family devotions. A lot of people don't feel equipped. Like they're like, I didn't go to seminary. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a youth pastor. I know the Bible has all the answers, but I don't really know how to find those. So one big objective was to create a tool that would allow anybody that knew the alphabet to be able to find anything in the Bible in less than 60 seconds. One of my favorite things to do at the Thrive Homeschool Conference is when I get a family to come by, and they'll be like a 10 or 11, 12-year-old son or daughter, and then they'll have a college age one. And usually the college age one has some super fancy smartphone, latest and greatest. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have a contest. We're going to put you up against your little brother or your little sister. And I'm like, here's the goal. You can't touch your phone right now, but I'm going to give your sibling, who's 10, 12 years old, I'm going to hand them an old, archaic book. And you're going to go up against them with the internet and your smartphone. I said, now, are you good with smartphone? They're like, oh, yeah, I'm really good. I'm like, okay. So here's the goal. The setting is you're a parent or you're an older sibling and you want to lead a Bible story or teach a Bible story or a Bible lesson. Maybe there's pouting or whining or courage or whatever topic comes up, and you want to find a solution to that from the Word of God. And we're going to see who can find it the fastest. And I tell the family that in the back of volume 1, because there's 3 volumes in the set, there is a topical index. It's A to Z. So
well,
it doesn't
hold it up
matter
while
the
you're doing.
age.
Give us a little a look at it, and so we know exactly
Okay.
what you're talking about here.
Bible and Stories, it's like I said, it's 3 volumes. This is volume 1 that I'm holding in my hand. But in the back of this volume 1 is a topical index. We spent 3 months preparing it. So a person could have never seen a Bible, have no Bible knowledge. If they know the alphabet, they can look up just about anything. And there's topics for adults, teens, and for children.
And the
but it
kid
was
usually
designed for-
wins the race. Is that how the story works or not?
There's some nail biting moments as they're going. Hey. 'Cause I
You're
don't
like,
know, for
come
some
on,
reason-
go a little faster.
For some reason, I picked the topic of lying, and so they're like A, B, C. I'm like, and the mom's usually like, come on, get to the L's. And then lying is LYING, so they're going through the L's like one at a time, real slowly down the list. But eventually they get there, and then they see that there are 6 stories on lying in the 3 volumes, and the mom's like, well, turn to one. So they flip over to page 10. It's the story of Cain and Abel. The story's on lying, murder, and jealousy. And boom, they've got a 2-page. If I try to hold it up, I don't know how well it's going to do on camera, but they've got a 2-page spread. Every story's pretty much on 2 pages, 250 to 300 words with review questions at the end, because a lot of the parents say, well, I don't know how to get the discussion going. So we've done that for them. So I'm going to try to hold this up. But every story is on a 2-page spread, starts and stops with pictures beautifully illustrated. And this helps hold the attention, because a lot of the parents say, well, I have a hard time holding their attention. And a lot of times when we're reading a book and it has a lot of print and very few pictures, everybody on the planet thinks in pictures. More importantly, we remember in pictures. So there are over 1,500 memory pictures in the 3 volumes. Because if I say the word ball to you, you do not see BALL. You see a ball. It may be a soccer ball, football, basketball, but you picture a ball. And so with all of these images, we're able to help adult and child alike to be able to retain much more of the Bible, because once they see the picture, they can't. It's locked in there.
So in
Your best
addition to
teachers-
so in addition to a resource like this, assuming you're going to help, of course, point that out, but also some other tips and tricks and tools. What else would you suggest adding into that family devotion? And what else would you suggest to really encourage, especially Dad, to make sure that's happening?
Well, I did a short little YouTube video for dads only on our YouTube channel. And I would encourage any dad listening to this it's not a huge following yet, but I would encourage any dad to go there and listen. In our home, we typically always have a time to pray about different things we're thankful for, or requests, things going on in the family that we need to bring before our Father. A lot of times my wife would use the hymn book, and our children know most of the old hymns. There's some great Bible truths in there, and many of those hymns are taken from Bible passages. But generally we would sing, pray, and read a Bible story. Kathy, my bride, what I think she likes the best about the Bible and Stories set are the review questions. There's a little over 1,400 review questions, 3 to 7 questions on each story. She liked this because that allowed her, in asking and answering the children answering those questions, to tailor it to what was going on in our family at that time. And her favorite part was the review questions at the end of each story. My favorite part's the pictures or the topical index.
And so, getting down to the real motive here, why is this so important? Why should families prioritize family devotions, including, prayer, being in the Word, singing, or whatever they can do?
I was reading some different research earlier today, some of it from Barna, and it's extremely troubling when 75 or 80% of the 18-year-olds leave the church never to come back. And these are people who've been in church their whole life. And in my mind, you've got to ask, what are we missing? Where is this getting off track? And I think a big part of it is, and it's one of the reasons I'm such a fan of homeschooling, we tend to farm out or shop out religious or Bible training and push it all off on the church. Well, hey, she's a Sunday school teacher, he's a youth pastor, this is a youth worker, this is the pastor. And it's just not cutting it. I mean, an hour or 2 or 3 a week. And I saw another picture. I need to track down its origin and find it, but it was a picture maybe from a balcony of a church looking down on the pews. You could see the hymn books, you could see the Bibles in the back of the pew. But there, in this picture, there were a lot of younger people. But I've also been in churches where this is true with a lot of older ones also. But everybody had out their smartphone or their iPad, and they weren't on the church website. And I'm just like, I believe in this time that we're in, we've been deceived and we've grown accustomed to being so busy and constantly being in touch. And I love the movie War Room. It really challenges one to think about setting a physical place. And you, Matthew, talked to us as a congregation about this, but setting a physical place, setting a physical time. And for me, I know everybody believes or has heard that you should have a time where you read the Bible. But I think a lot of people, the devil's deceived them into thinking it's an obligation and a responsibility.
Yeah.
And my take on it, coming from the business world and consulting a lot of business owners, I just ask them, look, if you had a challenge, if you had a problem that was just almost impossible to solve, and I could schedule an appointment for you with a counselor or with a mentor who would have the answer and could guide you through this very delicate situation, would you want me to introduce them to you? Would you want me to connect you on LinkedIn or an email introduction? And they're like, oh, absolutely. Yes, please do. Well, the only one I know, Matthew, that has all the answers, it's sure not me. It's sure not you, is our Heavenly Father. And to have that alone time with him, there is rarely ever a morning that goes by for me that something doesn't jump out of the Bible that I can use that day or that answers something that came up yesterday. And for me, I don't know if you remember this, but we had a young girl in the church years ago in the question and answer time after the message. We were discussing family devotions and challenges, and she was being very transparent. She's being very honest. And she said, I just find myself nodding off. I getting sleepy, getting distracted, my mind wandering. And again, she was very sincere, very genuine, but she had said this in front of the whole group. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to respond to the whole group. And I asked her, because she was dating a young man in the church. They're now married. But at that point they were still dating.
I remember
and
this moment.
You remember this?
I remember this.
Said,
oh, yeah.
I said, I'm just curious. I said, if he were to call you at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night, and she lights up and her eyes light up and there's like, her eyes are just gleaming and she's smiling. And I said, would you have trouble staying focused on the conversation, and she smiles real big and she's like, "Oh no." And I said, "Would you nod off or be distracted?" She goes, "Oh no." And my point was, sometimes I think it's a lack of expectation on our part. I mean, when I every morning when I wake up, my first thought is, "Thank you, Lord. I've been given another day. I wasn't promoted to heaven. I've got one more day, and I'm just thankful that I'm alive. I can move, and I'm heading to my war room." And
Hmm.
I'm always anticipating. I'm always expecting. Like, you encourage us in a lot of areas, but I always show up with my planner, with a pen, and I'm expecting to hear something
Mm-hmm.
from our Father, and I'm going to write it down. I'm
Yep.
going to take notes on what he's saying, and I'm asking him to convict me, to change me, because I can't change anybody else. I love my wife. I love our 6 children that God's given us, but um, the only one I have direct control over is me, and I've got to get right. And so many times I mean, parents will say, do this, do this, do this, do this, but the child is seeing that the parent doesn't do that.
Yeah, and I think
And
I think Glenn, that you're really getting at the heart of it when you ask, why are we doing it? Are we desperate? Do we realize how much we need the Lord? Do we realize how much we need his wisdom and his love and his truth? Because if we're nodding off, obviously we're not convinced deeply of that. And so a family worship time is a wonderful opportunity for the parents to demonstrate to the kids. This is what I want as I have time with my kids. I want them to believe that I think this is a super necessary, super important thing that we do. That's why we make it a priority, because we need him so bad.
Absolutely.
And I want to be able to communicate that while we're doing it, and the reality of it, and really get out of this, as you mentioned, the box checking, type of stuff. So I want to send them also, Glenn, to BibleandStories.com. Once again, we've been talking to Glenn Ransom. He's going to be at the Thrive Conference, May 26th through 28th, and he will be giving the workshop, Kiss Family Devotion, Excuses Goodbye, giving you some practical tips. You'll also get to hear about the Bible and Stories. Glenn, we're really glad you could join us today.
very honored to be here, Matthew. Thank you for having me.
Yep, we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we are about to head into homeschool news,
Yes.
right? And before we do that, we want to hear a little bit more about our sponsor, the College at Southeastern.
So at the College of Southeastern, we equip students to give their lives for the cause of Christ in the church, among the nations, and in every aspect of society. And that is why we offer a world-class conservative education in an affordable rate and a vibrant discipling community. With 25 ministry and marketplace majors and 4 5-year bachelor's to master programs, the College at Southeastern can be a trusted next step in your students' education. So schedule a tour of our beautiful Wake Forest campus today.
All right, so for our homeschool news, we want to mention a couple of important things about the conference.
Yes.
Now, I just want to reemphasize, here we are in North Carolina. This is the North Carolinians for Home Education show.
Yes.
And we want to give you the most important opportunities for equipping you for homeschooling.
Yes.
And so this is news. It so happens that it's our conference.
Yeah.
But this is like really important news.
Yes, it
because
is.
if you're a homeschooler, this is where you're going to be equipped and encouraged.
And connected, which
and
is
connected.
a very big part of
That's right.
homeschooling.
And you're going to
Staying
bring
connected.
that important piece into this as well.
Yes.
First of all, I just want to mention that we have a talent showcase at the conference, which is loads of fun because the homeschool students get to present their talents. And what you want to do to be a part of this is to submit your video audition by April 15th. You can go to nchu.com/thrive/talent to learn how to do that. And just make sure you remember that this isn't just music and dancing. Other categories that have been submitted: filmmaking, drama, taekwondo, jump rope, sign language. Think of something else. That would be
Yeah.
cool to do. And so you can find out more about that. The show is actually on Friday night, May 27th at 7:45.
Fun. And so something else we're going to have at the conference this year is the Multicultural Workshop and Gathering. The gathering we did last year, but the workshop is brand new, and we're super, super excited about it. This will be an opportunity to really expand the multicultural work that we've been doing. And what that means is we're going to get together, we're going to share some information and some resources, but there's going to be a big time for us to just connect and to fellowship. We're going to have a game, we're going to have some super cool prizes. So it's going to be lots of fun. And, we created my position, the multicultural liaison position, as well as our committee, because we are all about unified diversity. And what that means is we just believe that we're all better together, that our different backgrounds and histories and cultures, when we put that all together, we can all be enriched by it. And so at this workshop, it'll just be a time to kind of really just have a chance to do exactly that. So who are we targeting for this workshop? Everybody. So that's the African American family who's coming. Maybe you've been used to being the only one in the room, at your conferences. Well, that won't happen this time. This could be for our Hispanic families who speak Spanish. We're going to have Luz Velasquez there, our other multicultural liaison, and she'll have Spanish speaking opportunities. This is for Asian families, Indian families, Native American families. This is for white American families. The opportunity, because you have history, you have culture that we want to share as well. So this is for every family, any family who wants to experience and be enriched by the diversity and for us all getting together. So that will be on Friday at 11 o'clock at the Thrive Conference. And then on Saturday, we will have the gathering, and it'll be, again, just another touch point opportunity to connect, to fellowship, to talk. Our Spanish speakers will be there as well. And so we're just super excited about it.
Awesome.
So definitely come out, get your tickets to the conference. It's going to be a wonderful time. If you want to reach out to me before then, just because maybe you want to know somebody before you come, you can go to TS. You can send me an email at tsns.mac@nche.com, and we can connect beforehand so I can be looking out for you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Excited.
for heading that up. That's going to be great. All right, we just want to bring you a couple other homeschool news items around the nation. One is in the Tahlequah Daily Press, which is in Oklahoma. Janelle Steckline wrote a piece titled "Lawmakers Nix Money for Homeschooling Private Schools." She writes, "A bipartisan group of Oklahoma senators rejected a plan that would have shifted $128 million in public funds to families of children who choose not to attend public schools. Critics described the measure as a voucher scheme that came with little oversight and accountability. They also contended that private and homeschool organizations didn't want the measure that would have likely led to increased governmental oversight and done little to help rural school districts. State Senator Warren Hamilton said his wife homeschools both their children. Homeschoolers don't want this, he said. Many institutions of private education don't want this either because, as a wise man once said, with the shekels come the shackles. So besides that, it's interesting to see what's happening in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting to remember that the government is always trying to figure out where the money's going to go.
Yes.
Right. And bills like this often come up in North Carolina, where it's like, how can we give tax money or something like that to private school, homeschool? And usually we have this same position, and we just say, you know what, we would rather not receive any money from the government because usually oversight comes with that.
Absolutely.
We don't want to add any regulations.
Yeah. And the truth of it is, we are all privileged to be able to homeschool our children, but there are families who can't, and there are families and children who go to these public schools who need to be there for safety reasons, for food reasons, for whatever. So I have a personal conviction, like, let the money stay. Let it stay there to help those kids in those overcrowded classrooms who really need more resources. So in Georgia, the news is more families than ever are switching to homeschooling. So the data shows, and Savannah Levins wrote a story this month at 11alive.com in Atlanta, Georgia, and wrote that more families than ever are turning to homeschooling. And according to the United States Census data, many have cited learning loss concerns due to the whiplash of ever-changing policies. And reports show that in 2020 alone, the percentage of Georgia parents who pulled their kids out of public school altogether to homeschool went from 7 to 16%. And experts say that this is a trend that is continuing. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's amazing that they pretty much have the same percentage that we do, which is a very high national percentage. So it's the same here, 16% of students K through 12 are homeschooled in North Carolina.
Wow.
So, and that is a big increase. And so we see that happening in Georgia. We see it happening in other states around the country too. So we're going to keep our eye on that to know what's happening on the national scene and also what continues to happen in North Carolina. We will let you know that as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think we're going to have to
close. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're going to show you our homeschool reality moment next week.
Yes.
We are really glad that you joined us today. We're glad that we can talk to Glenn and share some of this news with you. We hope that you've been super encouraged and informed. If you have any feedback or questions, if there's anything we can do to answer your questions, you can send your questions to thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. Be sure also to subscribe to the show and to share it with your friends, to rate it and things like that so that other people can find the show more easily and they can also be encouraged. Until we meet again next week, please continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.